There's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and that is who has the rights to rights? Who are rights barriers in this society that we live in the United States of America with three Ks. And I'm a hip hop artist and I'm a historian. What's up, y'all? Renaissance poet here. When we look back at both the Articles of Confederation and the United States Constitution, they were written by white, wealthy, landowning men for wealthy, white, landowning men. Women didn't have rights back in those days. Women were considered property. Black folks who even fought in the Revolutionary War and helped to win that damn war because they were fighting under the premise that they were going to get some freedom, also didn't have rights. The Constitution said 3/5 of a human being. They put in the slave importation clause. And also, the slave catching clause, right? They wrote all of that stuff in there. Also, right, Native Americans, indigenous folks from this country also weren't attributed rights. They were supposed to be in negotiations between, the Congress as sovereign states, but the way that the laws were written soon after that, through Supreme Court cases, they put in this deal called plenary power. So we're talking about entire groups and populations that have been extracted from those who were considered rights bearers from the very foundation of this nation. Dred Scott, right? That there is no rights that a black man has that any white man is supposed to respect. And as many case laws as that I have ever read, I've never actually seen that overturned. Now, you might, make a claim to the 14th Amendment or something of that nature where it says equal protection under the law. But when we're looking in the streets and the way that things are functioning right now, we're also seeing, cops killing, brothers and sisters dead in the streets and then walking away scot-free. We're looking at, the prison industrial complex and the way that damn thing was built up, from the 13th Amendment that was supposed to outlaw enslavement in this country, which was the very first time that the word slave was ever actually written into the United States Constitution in 1865. Convict leasing, they gave all the justification for the reason that you can turn somebody into a person who was enslaved. All you have to do is convict them of a crime. So when you start talking about like who has the rights and who doesn't have rights, and then also we're doing all this like First Amendment and Fourth Amendment case law, Fourth Amendment, protection against illegal searches and seizures, unreasonable searches and seizures, protections of your property. And when we're looking into Fourth Amendment case law as it pertains to our students inside of the schools, our children, right? They said it's permissible for a teacher to strip search a young woman, 13 years old. And all they have to do is have reasonable suspicion because maybe somebody else inside of the school has said that this person has something that they shouldn't have. And then all of a sudden they can go around and start scrounging through underwear and whatnot. That's complete like lunacy to me. It's ridiculous. It's unheard of. It denies the humanity, right? Let me explain. If a person does not have the right or the power to stop somebody else from going into their most private components of their own body, then that says that they do not have rights. Let's pull this back. What that means is that somebody else is owning their body. That is the jurisprudence, the philosophy of law. This entire legal structure that we're underneath is all about property. It's property law. And so for an officer to come in and to take you into custody, put handcuffs, throw you inside of their car, what that cop has essentially done, what they've been granted the power to do is to determine you unfit to own your own body. And thus they claim ownership. And that, my friends, my peoples, is the definition of slavery. Slavery is not the work or the labor that you put a body to. It is merely the ownership of one body over another. And we haven't even got into human trafficking or sex trafficking or what happens once you put a person into this prison industrial complex where they're making everything from paint to military grade equipment. And most of the people who are incarcerated in this country are making less than 65 cents an hour. And if they do not work, then they're being thrown in a hole or into a cell block with people whom this state and the elites inside of this country have drawn wedges between us to put us in competition over a finite and a very minimal amount of resources inside of this country. Right? We're talking about the 1% of the 1% who are owning all of this shit. And we're trying to get our people together. That is ownership. And real clearly, None of these laws were ever written for any of us to actually have rights. Think on that for a bit. Peace, Renaissance, power to the people. It's time to take this shit over.